we are drawing, this is alveoli. Okay, and from near the alveoli there is crossing some of the blood vessels. Okay, so these are the blood vessel in which blood is present. Okay, so if oxygen or the any of the gases have to travel from the inner surface of the alveoli to the blood vessel, so they have to cross some of the membranes, some of the layers. So we can see the first layer is this one. Okay, and this is the second layer. Okay, layer of the blood vessel, or we can say wall of the blood vessel. And between them there is the presence of the basement membrane. Okay, between the blood capillary and the layers of alveoli there is the presence of basement membrane. So this is the third layer. So all these layers means the squamous epithelium layer of the alveoli, we also called as the alveolar membrane. Okay, other than basement membrane between the alveoli and the blood vessel, and then the endothelium of the blood capillary. The walls of the blood capillaries are called as the endothelium, or the walls of blood vessels we can say called as the endothelium. So between them is the basement membrane. So both these three layers will combinedly going to form the diffusion membrane. Okay, because oxygen or the carbon dioxide means the our important gaseous exchange will going to take place through this membrane. Diffusion will going to take place. Okay, we have already talked about the law of diffusion, how the diffusion will going to take place. Okay, so we have already seen these things. Now let's move forward, and today we will going to talk about the mechanism of breathing. Can anyone tell me, in the previous class do we have completed about the thoracic chamber or the thoracic cavity? Do we have completed thoracic cavity?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So today we will going to directly talk about the mechanism of breathing. As we all know that what is the thoracic chamber, what are the components, and what are the bones which are responsible for completing the thoracic chamber from ventrally, dorsally, laterally, superior and inferior. We have already gone through that. So today we will going to directly jump upon the mechanism of breathing, that how we breathe, what are the mechanism, what are the process by which the air is drawn inside the lungs and air is pumped outside the body from the lungs, means inhalation and exhalation. Okay, so if we go through the mechanism of breathing, there are two types of stages which are completing the breathing. If anyone will going to ask you what is breathing, we always say that breathing is the mechanical process in which there is the inhalation of air and exhalation, we can say inspiration or the expiration. So breathing will always going to be as inspiration plus expiration. If any single thing is happening, means the if only inhalation is happening, only expiration is happening, then it will not going to complete the breathing will be completed when the inspiration, one inspiration and one expiration will going to take place. Okay, so inspiration and expiration are the two stages. Let's move forward. First, we will going to talk about the inspiration, that how inspirations take place. So there is a very simple method of inspiration. We all know that lungs are present in the thoracic cavity. Lungs are present in thoracic cavity or the chamber. Okay, so we all know one of the rule, we all go undergone the some of the basic mathematics, and we all know about this. If pressure, if there is any space, or we can assume a balloon. Okay, that inside a balloon we have filled the water, and we have now we are pushing the balloon. Okay, we have closed the balloon, now we are pushing the balloon inside, towards inside. So we are increasing pressure. So if the pressure will increase, or we can say, 1 minute, we can talk in another way. Exactly what we are doing, if we are pushing the balloon by the hands towards inside, we are decreasing the volume. So we are decreasing volume. So if the volume will decrease, ultimately what is increasing? pressure is increasing. Pressure is increasing. So if the pressure is increasing, the balloon will try, or the water inside the balloon will try to release that pressure, okay, to come out, to escape out from that pressure. So water will, what it will try, it will try to come out from the balloon. So ultimately when the pressure will be very high, that balloon will burst and water will come out. Means ultimately anything on which the pressure is increasing, always try to release the pressure, okay. So same thing will going to happen here also. That if the volume will decrease, then the pressure will increase. Same vice versa will happen. If we are increasing the volume, if we are increasing the volume of anything, then obviously the pressure will decrease there, okay. So you have to remember these two things first, then we will move forward. So what exactly is happening, there is a diagram in front of you. So now you can see, this is the side view, cross sectional view of the thoracic cavity. These are our lungs, okay. These are lungs. These are ribs and sternum, which are forming the ventral wall of thoracic chamber or thoracic cavity. Ribs and sternum are the ventral wall, okay. Then rib cage, that will go laterally also, okay. And this is behind is the vertebral column, and down there is the diaphragm. So these are the different walls of thoracic chamber. Now what is exactly happening, you can also appreciate by touching your hand on your thoracic chamber or thoracic cavity from outside, that whenever you are inhaling the air, you are taking air inside, okay, your ribs, sternum, means the ventral wall, is raising outwards, forward, and somewhat upward also, okay. It is moving upward and forward, okay. So what happens exactly, ribs and sternums are raised first, they are moving towards the outside, okay. Other than diaphragm, okay, which is present as the inferior wall, will now going to contract. If the diaphragm will going to contract, it will convert from the dome shape to the flat shape, okay. So when anything is coming from this shape to this shape, flat shape, so this much volume will going to increase, this much volume will going to increase. And here also, if the ribs and sternums are going outside, so volume is increasing. And what we have studied just earlier, that if the volume will increase, then the pressure will decrease, okay. Now remember, pressure has decreased here, but if we are saying pressure has decreased, in whose comparison, we are saying it in the comparison with the atmospheric pressure. Why? Because we need the air to become inside our lungs from the atmosphere, okay. So we are decreasing the pressure slightly as compared to atmospheric pressure. And we all know about the law of diffusion, okay. We have already discussed about it, that everything will move from the high to low, high concentration to low concentration, high pressure to low pressure. So now the point has come here, if the pressure has decreased inside the thoracic cavity, means the pressure has decreased inside the lung, okay. So ultimately the air will going to drawn out from the high pressure, means from the atmosphere, to inside your lungs. That is the inspiration, okay. Air is drawn, if the air is drawn inside your lungs, means the inhalation has take place. So what has happened, we have, now we will go through the theory also, okay. Let's talk about all. Okay, so what exactly happens in the inspiration? During the inspiration, atmospheric air is drawn inside the lungs. We all know, yes, that is inspiration. If the word in is coming, means something is coming in. So now how the inspiration is coming, or how the inspiration is taking place. So inspiration taking place, if the pressure within the lungs, that we have already talked about, that pressure within the lungs, that is intrapulmonary. We know the word we use for the lungs is the pulmonary, okay. Pulmonary is the term we are using for the lungs. So the pressure inside the lung is called as the intrapulmonary pressure, okay. So interpulmonary pressure will going to become less than the atmospheric pressure. And when this condition will going to happen, there is the generation of the negative pressure, means the now air will move from the positive, means the atmosphere, towards the negative, where there is less, okay. So in the respect of atmosphere, we have already talked about that we are saying that pressure has decreased in the comparison to the atmospheric air. Okay, in the comparison to the atmosphere. So how the inspiration initiated? We have to be very clear that first air is not coming inside the lung. First the conditions will going to be made like that. What are the conditions? That the contraction of the diaphragm, which increases the volume of thoracic chamber in the anterior posterior axis. You have to remember that diaphragm is present like this, somewhat tilted like this. So if this diaphragm, if this diaphragm will come down to be like flat, this like this tilted, okay, so it is increasing the volume in the anterior posterior axis, means this is anterior position and this is going behind, so this is posterior position. So the volume has increased in the anterior posterior axis. Okay, you have to be very clear about these words. These are also written in your NCRTs. It will going to help you. Okay, let's come. So first of all, what have taken place? Contraction of diaphragm taken place. So diaphragm has converted from the dome shape to the flat and increases the volume in the anterior posterior axis. Okay, you have to remember this axis, that in which axis the diaphragm is increasing the volume. Okay, other than the diaphragm, we all know, as I have I think so already told you, if these are the ribs. Okay, like these ribs are arranged in our body. Okay, so these are the ribs. There is the presence of muscles between these ribs like this. Okay, and the term which we use to represent the ribs are known as the costal. Okay, as we are using the pulmonary word for the lungs, cardiac word for the heart, okay, renal word for the kidney, same word we are using the costal word for the ribs. So anything means this muscle is present between the two ribs, between the two costals. So that is what a reason these muscles are called as intracostal muscles. Intercostal, sorry, not intra, it is intercostal. Intercostal muscles. Okay, and these intercostal muscles are of two types. You can see the muscles which are appearing outside. Okay, means you can see them from the ventral position, but same type of muscles are also present in the inside surface. Okay, if we will going to retract or turn the ribs towards outside, then you can see same type of muscles are present in the inside surface also. So there are two types of intercostal muscles. One is extrinsic, these are present outside, and one is intrinsic. Okay, extrinsic intercostal muscle and the intrinsic intercostal muscles. Okay, or you can say external. If anything is present outside, you can say external, and if it is present inside, you can say internal. Okay, so external intercostal muscle or the internal intercostal muscles. So now these external intercostal muscles which are present between these ribs, if they will going to contract, we all know if the muscle will going to contract, each muscle fiber will come towards each other. Okay, it will going to squeeze. So if this external intercostal muscle, this external intercostal muscle will going to contract, so ultimately it will going to push, okay, sorry, it will going to pull the ribs and the sternum towards itself, means it will going to ultimately come towards the outside of the body. Okay, it will try to move away. So that is what a reason that contraction of the external intercostal muscle will going to lift the ribs. Okay, will going to lift the ribs and the sternum, and ultimately if the ribs and sternum are also moving outside, so they are increasing the volume in the thoracic chamber, but in the dorsoventral axis. Okay, not in the anterior posterior. In the anterior posterior axis, diaphragm is increasing. Okay, diaphragm is increasing like this volume. Okay, and Ribs are increasing like this in the dorsoventral, or you can say ventrodorsal, from the ventral to the dorsal side. Okay, so like this volume has increased. So ultimately, if the volume has increase in the pulmonary volume will ultimately, we have already talked about it, decrease the intrapulmonary pressure. If the pressure is decreased less than the atmospheric pressure, ultimately what will going to happen? Air from outside, means from the environment, will move into the lungs, and that is we called as the inspiration. Okay, so this is all about the inspiration. Now we have already seen the diagram. Okay, we have already completed theory, and we have understood that you have to remember this thing. Okay, volume and pressure relation. Okay, if the volume is decreasing, pressure increasing. If volume increasing, then the pressure decreasing. So we have applied this second basic in the inspiration. Now the, sorry, this, yes, this second, and now this first one, that the, if the volume is decreased and the pressure increase, this basic we will going to apply in the expiration, when the lungs are pushing the air outside the body. So all opposite things will going to happen in the expiration. If we will go through the diagram, so now you can appreciate in the diagram what is happening. Air is expelled out from the lungs, but how the air is expelled out? Now we know that the external intercostal muscles which are present between the ribs has contracted, okay, and they had pulled the ribs and sternum away from the body. Okay, so that is what a reason volume has increased. Now what will going to happen? Now these external intercostal muscle passively, means they will not going to use any energy, they will passively go towards the relaxation. If the muscle will going to relax, ultimately ribs and the sternum will going to return to its original position. Okay, so ultimately if it is coming on its original position, means the this volume, this volume will going to decrease. Okay, and other than, you can see diaphragm also coming from the flat position to the dome position. You can say during the inspiration, somewhat here is the diaphragm, now it has reached again to the dome shaped. Okay, again to the dome shaped, means this much, if we are saying this much volume has again decreased. So overall there is the decrease in the volume. So if there is the decrease in the volume, there is the increase in the pressure. So that is what is the expiration. We will going to talk about that relaxation of the diaphragm and the intercostal muscles. We have already talked about them. So ultimately what is happening? Diaphragm is returning to its original position, other than sternum and ribs are also coming. Okay, sternum, and you can write here, and ribs. Okay, sternum and ribs are also coming to their normal position. Ultimately what is happening? There is the reduction in the thoracic volume, or decrease in the thoracic volume. If the volume is increased, what having sorry, volume has decreased, then what had increased? Intrapulmonary pressure has increased. Okay, so decrease in the pulmonary volume will increase in the intrapulmonary pressure slightly, not very much, just slightly above the atmospheric pressure. Okay, because if you will increase the much and much pressure as compared to atmosphere, then your most of the things will going to be escaped out from the body, not only the air. Okay, your organs and other tissues will also be pulled up to the atmosphere, so we cannot increase the much pressure. Okay, only a slight increase is present there. So ultimately there is the expulsion of the air from the lungs, from the higher pressure to the lower pressure. Okay, so this is all about the expiration. Okay, so these are the both of the stages, inspiration and expiration, which are present in the mechanism of breathing. Okay, so if we move forward, we have already talked about the thoracic chamber. So we can revise again about the thoracic chamber. The thoracic chamber is formed ventrally, means from the front by the sternum and ribs. Okay, then laterally, if we are coming lateral sides, okay, sides of your body, then again ribs are present here. Okay, now if we are going to back side, then we will going to get the vertebral column. Okay, the structure to which in our primary classes we called it as the backbone is in real called as the vertebral column. Okay, and other than vertebral column and the ribs. Okay, so these are completely forming the ventral and the lateral and the dorsal wall, and the inferior wall is formed by the dome shaped diaphragm, and the superior wall, these are the bones which you can see here, these bones, these, 1 minute, these bones. Okay, these are the ribs up to here, these are ribs, but these are the collar bones. Okay, these are the collar bones, so these are forming the superior boundary of your thoracic chamber, and these are called as the clavicle bone. We have already learned in your 11th class. Okay, okay, so these are the thoracic chamber. Okay, this is the diaphragm. Actually, diaphragm is a muscle. Okay, so you can see this is the position of the diaphragm, how the diaphragm is present. Okay, there is the one of the opening. Okay, this is the opening called as the hilum. This opening is present in the diaphragm, through which the many of these structures are coming from the thoracic cavity to the abdominal cavity. Okay, so this is all about the mechanism of breathing: thoracic chamber, diaphragm, clavicles. Okay, so you have to remember them. Okay, can anyone tell me why the why this bone? I am 1 minute. I am highlighting the bone. These bones. Okay, these are the bones which are present dorsally. Okay, you can see them. Why they are not included in the thoracic chamber? Why they are not included in the thoracic cavity? Why we have not talked about them? Can anyone answer? Why these bones are not included? Tell me. What is the reason behind it? Okay, let I will tell you. Okay, first of all, you have to remember these bones are called as the scapula. Okay, these bones are called as the scapula. Now we are asking a question that why these scapula, means both sides, are not included in the thoracic chamber? Why they are not included as the walls in the thoracic chamber? So that is a simple answer. We all know that we are talking about the cavity. Okay, and what the cavity means, that is the space within walls. Okay, so if you are sitting in your classroom, okay, and there is the presence of wall from all the four sides and the roof and the floor, if there is the presence of wall, so I can make like this these are the walls. Okay, so anything which is present behind these walls, okay, like this is happening. If we say here is the presence of ribs and sternum, here is the presence of ribs laterally. Okay, there is also laterally ribs, and here is presence of, this is vertebral column and ribs again. Okay, so these are ultimately forming the walls. If anything present behind the wall will not going to be counted as the wall of that particular cavity. So that is what a reason scapulas are present there at the dorsal position, but then also we can see them that they, for us, if we are seeing from the outside, we can say yes, scapula is also can be seen, that is forming the dorsal boundary, but not, it is not forming, they are present just behind the wall. Okay, so that is what a reason scapulas are not included in the thoracic cavity or the thoracic chamber. Okay, they are not forming the thoracic cavity or the thoracic chamber. Okay. Now, finally, we will going to talk about the respiratory volumes and capacities. Wait for a minute. Okay. So, respiratory volume and capacities. So, we all know that in the respiratory system, in the respiratory tract, if we were going to talk, there is the presence of trachea, there is the presence of bronchioles. Okay. Trachea, bronchioles. Okay. Bronchioles, lungs, or we can say alveoli. Okay. So these are all structures, and these are all the structure in which anything can be filled. Why? Because trachea and bronchioles are the tube structure. Okay, so we know that air will going to be filled inside these tubes, then only it can reach up to the alveoli, that is a sac like structure, or we can say bag like structure. Alveoli is a sac or the bag like structure, so we can fill air there also. So that is what a reason we are discussing about the volumes, that how much volume we can fill. Okay, and if I am saying how much, means we are talking about the maximum, but we have to talk about the normal also. If we are sitting in our classroom and we are breathing now, so during the normal breathing, what amount of volume we are taking inside the lungs. Okay, we have to measure that also, we have to study that also. And what are our capacities? When we are talk about the capacity, we all talk about the maximum level. Means if we are eating two chapatis today, okay, if we are eating two chapati, so this is the normal, this is our normal diet. If anyone will going to tell us that today you have to eat chapatis, that how much up to the maximum level that you can eat. Okay, so we have started eating and we have today eaten 8 chapatis, that is maximum for us. Okay, if that is maximum for us, we have eat the 8 chapatis. So this 8 is the capacity. Okay, this 8 is the capacity that you can fill up to the maximum level. Your lungs, your trachea, means your complete respiratory tract is made for this much capacity only. You cannot take it further. Okay, so let's talk about it, that what are the volumes and capacities that are present. Okay, so first we are talking about the tidal volume. Okay, so what is the tidal volume? We have to be very clear about it. So tidal volume is the simple, in the lame language we are saying that this is the volume. Okay, this is the volume which we are inspiring or expiring. You have to be very clear with the words. The volume which we are inspiring or the expiring during the normal respiration, means we are sitting, we are not taking the air forcefully. Okay, we are not trying to take the maximum amount of air or more amount of air other than the normal position. We are just sitting the normal and we are breathing. So this is the tidal volume, means the volume of the air inspired or expired during the normal respiration. You have to remember these words. Okay, normal respiration, we are inspiring and expiring. So the volume which we inspire or expire during the normal respiration is approximately 500 ml of the volume. Okay, but what we all know, that the breathing rate, okay, breathing rate in the human, if we are talking average, is around the 12 to 16 breaths per minute. Okay, in 60 seconds, in the 1 minute, we are taking 12 to 60 breaths. So if we know in one breath, I have already told you that breath is the inspiration plus expiration. Okay, so that is around the 500 ml in the normal respiration. Okay, so if you will going to multiply this 500 ml with the 12 to 16 minutes, you will going to have the range of the tidal volume in the healthy man. So that is what a reason there is written healthy man can inspire or expire approximately 6,000 to 8,000 ml of air per minute. Okay, we are not talking about the oxygen, we are not talking about carbon dioxide, we are just talking about the air. Okay, so in the normal respiration, a healthy man can inspire, expire 6,000 to 8,000 ml of air. Okay, so this is the tidal volume. You have to remember this word, normal respiration. Okay, now we are moving towards the next volume that is called as IRV, that is the inspiratory reserve volume. IRV. So here is the, we have to be very clear about the terms in the biology. Okay, so here the word is coming inspiratory, means somewhere we are talking about the inspiration. Okay, okay, right. Then the other word is coming as the reserve. So whenever we are talking about the word reserve, means we are talking about something additional. Okay, whenever we talk in the daily that we will keep that thing into a reserve, okay, means you will keep it for the extra use, additional use. So in first word is coming as the inspiration and other word coming as the reserve, or we can say additional or extra. So in the normal, in the normal respiration, you are taking the tidal volume. Okay. Now you have to talk in the respect of this volume only. In the normal respiration, we are taking the tidal volume. Now they are asking us about the inspiratory reserve volume. That how much reserve means how much additional volume we can take inside the body during the inspiration. Okay. So now we are going to talk about that. So IRV. So what is the IRV? Additional volume of air a particular person can inspire. And if we want to take anything additional, we have to work more. Means now we are not talking about the normal respiration. We are talking about the forceful inspiration. Means the forcefully you are taking the air inside your lungs. Okay. We know now many times we start taking air very forcefully. Okay, voluntarily. Okay, voluntarily we do so. So during the forceful inspiration, if we are taking the additional air, because in the normal respiration when you are sitting normally, you are not respiring forcefully. That is what the reason we are saying the normal standard respiration is the tidal volume. But when we are taking the forceful inspiration, ultimately what you are doing, you are taking the tidal volume plus the additional, and this inspiratory additional volume if we will going to add, so that is around the 2500 to 3000 ml, means 2500 ml to 3000 ml. This is the inspiratory reserve volume. You have to remember all these volumes. So we will going to first write here. So in the last it will going to help. Tidal volume is around the 500 ml. Okay. Then the inspiratory reserve volume, that is around the 2500 to 3000 ml. Okay, we have already talked about the inspiratory volume. Now the same, another term will come in front of you, that is the ERV, that is the expiratory, means now you are talking about the expiration. Again word is coming reserve, means we are talking about the additional expiratory volume, means how much additional we can expire. So the additional volume of the air a person can expire by a forceful expiration. Here we have used the word forceful inspiration in the IRV. Now we are using the forceful expiration word in the ERV. So that is around 1000 ml to 1100. That is 1100 ml. Okay, this is the ERV. So this much additional you can expire, or that much additional you can inspire, means this additional inspiration, this additional expiration. So we have completed these three important volumes. Now one of the volume has left, and yes, that is what a reason they are called as the residual volume. Residual. The word residual means, what the residual word means, anything which is left after the completion of process. Left after, or we can say remain after completion of process. Okay, if any process is completed, then also something has left, that is called as residual. You have to remember it. Okay, so what is exactly happening here? Means they are, if they are saying residual volume, means some of the volume of the air has remained inside the lungs after the expiration. If something is left by after the process, and what is the process is breathing. That is, first the inspiration will going to take place, then the expiration will going to take place, and after the expiration, breathing process is completed. But if something has remained after the expiration also, that is called as the residual volume. So what we are doing, we are taking air like this, and now we are expiring. How we are expiring? We are expiring forcefully. Okay, not the normal expiration. Forceful expiration means we are using our full energy to expire. And then also, if something is left inside your lungs, inside your respiratory tract, that is called as the residual volume. So volume of the air which has remained inside the lungs even after the forceful expiration, and that is around, means the RV, residual volume, is around the 100 ml, 1100 ml to 1200 ml. Okay, so this much is the residual volume. Okay, so these are the volumes which we have to remember: tidal volume, inspiratory reserve volume, expiratory reserve volume, and residual volume. Wait a minute. मैं आधा घंटे ठीक है, तो 3 बजे तक उनको दे दे रहा हूँ चाबी। हाँ, है ना? Okay, so we have completed all the volumes. Okay, TV, IRV, ERV, RV, and you have to remember them. Why we have to remember them? Because these respiratory volume will going to help you to measure, to calculate your capacities. Okay, we have not still reached up to the capacities. This volume will going to take you up to your capacities, means the inspiratory capacity, expiratory capacity, total lung capacity. Okay, so we're going to talk about them also now. So let's talk about them. So now the first capacity that is coming in front of you is the inspiratory capacity. The name is defining itself. Okay, this name is defining itself. We are talking about the inspiration and we are talking about the capacity, means how much inspiration we can do, how much volume we can take inside. So inspiratory capacity is total volume of air a person can inspire after normal expiration. Means normally we have thrown out the air from the body. Now we are taking air inside the lungs. Okay, so now what we are talking, if we are talking about the normal inspiration, then we will going to take the tidal volume. Yes, because tidal volume is the volume which is present during the normal respiration. And other than, if we are talking about the capacity, so we have to talk about normal plus additional. Okay, then only we can say this is our capacity. Normally we can eat 2 chapatis, but additionally we are eating 8 more. Okay, so completely 10 is your capacity. 10 chapati is your capacity. So same type, if we are taking the tidal volume in the normal respiration, and we will going to add the ERV, that is the inspiratory reserve volume, we will going to add the inspiratory reserve volume, then it will going to tell us the inspiratory capacity. Okay, so now you can calculate. Here is the TV in front of you, 500 ml, and the IRV is in front of you. If we will going to add both of these, so it will going to come around the 3000 ml to 3500 ml. Okay, this will be the range of the inspiratory capacity, means this much amount you can inspire. Then coming as the expiratory capacity, means how much you can expire. So before expiring, what you have to do, you have to do the normal inspiration, means normally take in air. Now you will going to forcefully leave the air from your body, means we have taken the TV, and other than TV we are also taking the additional expiratory volume, that is the expiratory reserve volume. Okay, so TV is 500 ml and ERV is from the 1000 to 1100 ml. So this statics will come around the 1500 ml to, this is wrong, to 1600 ml. 1500 ml to 1600. So this is the expiratory capacity. Okay, you have to remember this. Now we have completed the inspiratory capacity and expiratory capacity. We will going to talk about the vital capacity. Vital capacity means that the maximum volume of air, okay, a particular person can breathe. If we are talking about the word breathe means the inspiration plus the expiration, both will going to happen, then only the breath is complete. Okay, so what we will going to do, first of all we will going to throw out all the air we can push out from your lungs. Okay, and that is called as the forced expiration. Forcefully we are expiring, so ultimately what will going to remain inside the lungs, only the residual volume is present. No ERV, no IRV, no tidal volume, nothing is present, only residual volume is present. All other additional volumes we have thrown out. Now if we have thrown out all the volume, now we will going to take air inside, and now air inside and means the inspiration will going to take place and the expiration will going to take place, then only you can calculate the maximum volume. Okay, so what we can do in the normal example, if we can see, if we want to measure the maximum volume of any particular container, so first of all what we will do, first we will going to clean out that container, means we will going to flush out all the things that is present in that particular container, then only if we will going to start filling. Okay, so we can reach it to its maximum. If something is already present there that is additional, then you cannot accurately calculate the maximum volume. Okay, so you have to clean out everything, you have to remove everything. So that is what we are doing, the forced expiration. Then now we will going to take the forceful inspiration. Okay, so if we are taking the forceful inspiration, means we are using the tidal volume and the inspiratory reserve volume, and after that we will going to forcefully expire. So we are also adding the expiratory reserve volume, so that is completely will going to form your vital capacity, that how much additional inspire and how much additional expire you can do. Okay, so vital capacity, so when we are calculating the vital capacity, you can write it as the ERV, ERV plus TV plus IRV. Okay, these are vital capacities you can calculate. Okay, so when after the class you can do these sums and you can calculate how much the vital capacity is, how much the expiratory capacity, how much the inspiratory capacity. You can write all these statistics in your copy. Okay, so let's remove it. We will going to make some space for us. Okay, so now ultimately we will going to talk about the total lung capacity, means how much volume of the air we can keep inside our lungs. Okay, so we all know that total volume will going to be calculated, will going to be measured if we will going to add all the volumes, means tidal volume is the normal volume, inspiratory reserve means the additional you can inspire, ERV additional you can expire, and even after the forced expiration, that is the remnant of the air, that is the residual volume. So if you will going to add all of these four volumes, you will going to get the total lung capacities. Okay, so these are the volume and capacity which you have to remember. After the class, please go through all these again, because in one time you will not going to understand them. Okay, I have already taught you, but going after the class, please read them once, write all the statics, means how much tidal volume, how much inspiratory volume, what is the data, please go through it, and also measure inspiratory capacity, expiratory, vital capacity, and the total lung capacity, means how much the volume is coming. That is your work. Okay. Now, today we're going to talk about the introduction of the exchange of gases. From the next class, we will going to continue about the transport of gases or the exchange of gases. Let's first talk about the exchange of gases. Okay. So in your NCRT, in your books which you are using at this standard, you will going to see this diagram. Okay. So we know this is alveoli, and I have already told you that alveoli is the main station. Okay, alveoli is the main platform from where the gaseous exchange will going to take place. Okay, other than the tract which we have followed from the external nostril up to the alveoli, we will not going to see the much exchange of gases. Okay, up to the terminal bronchioles there is no exchange. From the respiratory bronchiole to the alveoli there is some of the gaseous exchange present, but the majority of the gaseous exchange will going to take place from the alveoli only. Okay, so now you have to clear about the two words. First is PO2, PCO2. Okay, these are the two words, PO2 and PCO2. If we are talking about the O2 and CO2, we have already understood that we are talking about the oxygen and the carbon dioxide. But before that, you have to be very clear with this word, P gases, because at the place of gas, you can keep anything, oxygen, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, anything. So you have to understand what is the P gas. P gases, this is called as the partial pressure of particular gas. Okay, particular gas, partial pressure of the particular gas. Now the again doubt is come, what is partial pressure? Okay, so what is partial pressure? This is the pressure contributed by an individual gas. Means if we are saying, we know we are taking the air, we are not taking a particular gas from the atmosphere, we are taking what? We are taking air. So what is air? Air is the mixture of gases, means there are many of the gases present there. Okay, if I say this is one gas, this is one gas. Okay, different gases are present here. So the pressure, this is one individual gas to which I have labeled. Okay, so the pressure which is contributed by this individual gas in this mixture of gas in this air, that is called its partial pressure. Okay, means how much pressure it is applying individually. Okay, so if we are going in a friend circle, okay, you will going to include yourself in the friend circle and you have something, food item you have taken. Okay, and now you all are contributing for it, you are all doing the country for it. So the amount of contribution that a particular person or the individual will going to give, that will be going to as the partial pressure. Okay, that is the example you can remember. So pressure contributed by the individual gas in a mixture of gases is called as the partial pressure. Okay, so PO2 is the partial pressure of oxygen and PCO2 is the partial pressure of carbon dioxide. So you have to remember these terminologies. Okay, now we will going to talk about the exchange. So let's see what is happening here. This is alveoli. We know if we will going to inspire the air, this air is rich in oxygen. Okay, this air is rich in oxygen. So automatically we also know that partial pressure of oxygen will going to be very high. The contribution of, if we are saying rich in oxygen, means there is more oxygen. So partial pressure of oxygen is around the 104 mmHg. Okay, this is the unit of pressure, 104 mmHg. And as compared to CO2, partial pressure of CO2 is the 40 mmHg. Okay, very less as compared to oxygen. Okay, so this is the condition in the alveoli. And if we know, for the diffusion of gases, we need the high pressure inside the alveoli and low pressure in the blood vessel. Okay, so what we want the oxygen to travel inside the blood. So you can see here is the exchange is taking place. Oxygen is going inside the blood vessel and CO2 is coming into the alveoli just to be expelled out from the body. So we know, okay, we all know about the circulatory system. We have gone through the circulatory system. So what we have seen, this is our heart, okay, and these are the tissues present here. These are the body tissue. From the body tissue, blood is coming, means the deoxygenated blood. Okay, deoxygenated blood which have the more amount of carbon dioxide and less amount of the oxygen, because oxygen has already consumed in the cells. So they are sending the carbon dioxide which are made during the consumption of oxygen inside the cell as the byproduct. So CO2 is coming in this deoxygenated blood. This CO2 means the deoxygenated blood will reach to the right atrium of the heart, then to the right ventricle. From the right ventricle, they will reach through the pulmonary artery to the lungs. Okay, they will going to reach to the lungs, and the pulmonary artery will say to the lungs that I need oxygen. So lung will say, means the alveoli will say, yes, we are filled with oxygen just for you. So take it with you and give CO2 to us. So CO2 and oxygen will going to be exchanged. Then the oxygen will going to come into the pulmonary vein. Okay, means the oxygenated blood is now present in the pulmonary vein. We all know that pulmonary vein and pulmonary artery are the exceptions of artery and vein. Okay, because the standard artery will going to carry the oxygenated blood, but in the heart, pulmonary artery will going to carry the deoxygenated. Same vice versa will going to happen with the pulmonary vein. So the oxygenated blood will come again into the left atrium, then reach to the left ventricle, and from the left ventricle through the aorta. This is the aorta. Through the aorta, it will going to be carry out to the body tissue. So we can see here is the partial pressure of oxygen is 95 mmHg. Now let's see in this oxygenated blood, partial pressure of oxygen is 95 mmHg, but in the alveoli it is 104 mmHg. Means the whole oxygen which is present in the alveoli is not exchanged with the blood. Okay, why? Because pressure difference to be maintained, we cannot pull out complete air, also the complete gases from the alveoli to the blood, because it will going to again disturb the pressure difference. Okay, and if the pressure difference has disturbed, then the again the oxygen will going to exchange back to the alveoli. It will not going to remain in the blood. Okay, again if the pressure is high in the blood and less in the alveoli, so it will going to be exchanged again. So we have to keep somewhat pressure difference. So here is the partial pressure of oxygen is 95 mmHg and less is the CO2 40 mmHg. Okay, pressure difference should be maintained. We cannot say that in the oxygenated blood there is the no presence of carbon dioxide. Yes, there is presence, but much less than the oxygen. Okay, so it will ultimately reach to the body tissue. So this is the how, this is the overview. Okay, we will going to see a complete exchange in detail, but this is the overview how has the exchange has taken place. So for the exchange, we have to remember some of the important factors that are responsible for the diffusion of gases. Okay, first you have to remember this, that the alveoli are the primary site of exchange of gases. Okay, and because exchange of gases will going to first take place, this is the first level. Okay, from where the exchange will going to take place, from the alveoli to blood vessel. Okay, and this is the second, from the blood vessel to tissues. Okay, so these are the level where the exchange will going to take place. Now what are the factors that you have to remember? The first factors come as the solubility. Okay, solubility of gases. If the solubility of gases is more, ultimately more amount of gas can be transported or can be exchanged. Okay, because we all know, if we are taking anything, okay, we have taken sugar or we have taken salt inside the water, in a glass of water, and now we are stirring it just to make it soluble. Just imagine if it will not going to be soluble, if it remains insoluble, then it will going to be appear in front of you. You cannot carry it so easily if you want to drink it. Okay, so you cannot carry it easily because there is presence of much sugar in the solid form, that is insoluble form. So solubility of gases is very important just to carry or just to exchange. Okay, so first factor is the solubility of gases. Other than the solubility of gases, the second factor is the thickness of the membranes. Means we have already talked about the diffusion membrane, and diffusion membrane constitutes alveolar membrane, basement membrane, and the endothelial layer of the blood vessel. These three layers will going to form the diffusion membrane. So if the thickness of these layer will going to increase, so diffusion will automatically will going to decrease. Okay, because much thickness, then the less diffusion, less thickness, much more diffusion. That is the normal phenomena. Okay, so thickness of the membrane is one of the also very important factor in the diffusion. Okay, and other than one is the rate of diffusion. Okay, so ultimately solubility of gases and the thickness of membrane is altering what? Is altering the rate of diffusion. Means if the solubility is more, then the rate of diffusion is more. Okay, because blood is also not stopping anywhere, it is just circulating. So as soon as the solubility is more, means the more amount of gas can soluble easily in a small time, so rate of diffusion will increase. Same if the thickness will be less, then the more amount of gas can be exchanged, so it can be soluble more, and ultimately rate of diffusion will going to increase. So this is all about the intro of the exchange gases, that what the factors you have to remember, and what is the partial pressure of gases. Okay, what is the PO2, what is the CO2, you have to remember, and this overview of exchange, because from the next class we will going to talk about the transport of gases, how the gases are transport, what is the oxygen dissociation curve, what is the exchange of carbon dioxide, we will going to talk about it. Okay, we will going to talk about the transport of oxygen, we will going to talk about the oxygen dissociation curve. Okay, please come after reading. Okay, one read please do, not I'm saying that please come by understanding everything, just go through all the things which are written in your book. Okay, once, because it will going to give you the interest of studying here also. Okay, then after we will going to talk about the transport of carbon dioxide and all other things. Okay, so this much is for today, you can take rest, and I think we have more classes from 2 o'clock. Okay, so this much is for today, we are concluding here only. Okay, thank you everyone. Anyone have any doubt, you can ask me.
No, sir.
Okay, fine, thank you.